This is one of the most special moments in my entire life because just 2 days ago, I was approved to be a super creator in Supercell's creator program, a goal that I've genuinely devoted my entire life to in this past year. And as the icing on the cake, today's the day that I turned 20 years old. So in this video, we're going to be talking about my entire journey and how merge tactics changed my life, genuinely not an exaggeration, and then maybe how it could transform your life as well while we push to the top 500. There comes a point in every kid's life when they get a dream. And for me, that's content creation. And throughout my entire life, whenever someone would ask me, hey, what do you want to accomplish with your life? My answer would always be, I want to be a content creator. Because growing up, I've always watched YouTubers like Sunday and Technoblade, and I've always looked up to them because they're funny and they're entertaining, and they just always brighten my day whenever I watch them. And even if I had a bad day at school, for example, if I just came home and watched them, I would always laugh and be happy, and my struggles would temporarily disappear. And growing up, just for the few years after that, that's always been my goal. I've always wanted to be a content creator just so I could be like them, so I could make people's lives just a lot better every day and just make people's struggles temporarily go away. And my dream finally manifested for the first time when I was in middle school. And I was in 8th grade and I had just moved to a new school in Korea. And at that time, I was really getting into Minecraft Bed Wars, and I played every single day. And I said, hey, let me just stream this for the first time because that was my dream. And I said I had to start sometime, so I posted on my private Instagram story, my personal account, and I said, hey guys, I'm streaming live Minecraft Bed Wars, and I linked to my Twitch. And I started streaming, and people started coming in. My classmates started coming in, and I had 5 viewers, and I was like, hey, that's awesome. But when I looked at the chat, it was all my classmates saying, haha, look at this guy, like, what is this guy doing? And it was just a lot of people just sort of clowning on me and just being like, who do you think you are? Like, do you think you're gonna amount to something with this? And it was a bit discouraging. It was a bit discouraging, and I felt like I was just getting trolled. But I didn't really let that bother me. And the next day, I started another stream, and I reposted on my Instagram story again. I said, "Hey guys, I'm streaming Minecraft Bed Wars Day 2. Come watch at my Twitch," and I linked my Twitch again. And at the same time, I kept getting more chats, all from my classmates. And they said, "Hey, let me into your party," or it was just a lot of people sort of looking down on me and clowning on me and just sort of not really thinking that I'd really amount to anything. And I just got so discouraged because I said, why am I going to do this if I'm just going to get hated for it? And that is the day when my dream was killed off, and I didn't think it was possible. And after that, high school came around, and my parents really wanted me to get into a good school. And I sort of just had to drop my dream. And I said, okay, you know what? I'm just going to listen to you. I'm just going to study hard every day. And so I devoted the next 4 years of my life to getting a 4.0 GPA, getting all these extracurriculars, and, you know, just studying hard for exams, writing good college essays, just all banking on the fact that I could get into a good school and just really make my parents proud. And I guess make myself proud as well, because that's the sort of Asian mindset I had, because my parents at that point were always like, this is your dream now. Your dream is to get into a good school and to get into a prestigious school so that people can view highly of you and so that you can get a good job. That is your dream now. And at college application season, the decisions came around, and I got rejection after rejection after rejection. And that's sort of when I guess my life just really came crashing down. And I just thought, what is my purpose in life? I just studied so hard. I worked so hard. I just gave my blood, sweat, and tears for 4 years in a row, and there's nothing to show for it. And I went into college the next year, and I was still really down, to be honest. And I was just really trying to get a good college experience. And I tried making good friends there. I tried maybe going out to clubs, going out and just doing a lot of these different things. And for me, I just tried so hard in college. And I just didn't find my right group of people in college. I didn't find the right friends to hang out with. And at that point, I just sort of just stayed in the dorm all day. And I was honestly pretty depressed because nothing in life was going my way, right? And the summer after that is when Merge Tactics was announced. Merge Tactics for me was announced in about June. And at that point, I played Clash Royale a lot. That was just my main mobile game at the time. And when Merge Tactics was announced, I thought, hey, this is the perfect chance for me to sort of play a new game. I might like the new game because Merge Tactics was announced to be an auto chess game, sort of like how TFT is. TFT is another auto chess game. It's League of Legends version of auto chess, League of Legends auto chess game. And I really enjoyed TFT. So I thought, hey, let me try out Merge Tactics. So The minute Merge Tactics came out, I called one of my friends from high school who's also into auto chess, and we both played together. We both started playing the game together. I remember we started playing at 11 p.m. And when I played my first ever game of Merge Tactics, I immediately fell in love. I genuinely never had as much fun with that game as I had in any other game in years, probably since Prime Fortnite. And I knew that was the game. And I played that game for the next 13 hours in a row. I had an all-nighter. I played until 1 p.m. the next day, straight. My friend went to sleep at about 5 a.m. He really enjoyed it too, but I just could not stop playing the game. I kept playing until I was about like maybe in the low 1,000 star steal. And I really wanted to get better. And I thought, okay, how do I get better? Maybe I'll go on the Discord and I'll see if I can maybe ask for advice. And the #1 player on the leaderboard at that time, his name is Lindley. And I want you to remember this name because this name is going to be important later. His name was Lindley. And I boot up my Discord and I just go to the newly created Merge Tactics channel. And I looked through and I was going to ask, hey, do you guys have any advice for this? Because, I mean, everyone is new to the game mode because it just came out, but I thought maybe some people will just have more insight than other people. And as I look through the chats, I see the name Lindley. And I was just so in disbelief because it was the #1 player just casually chatting around in the Merge Tactics Discord. I thought, hey, what does some extremely pro player like this have anything to do with people like me? Just some ordinary person like me who just doesn't know anything about the game, just some noob. How does he have the time to speak to me? And I asked him like, hey, do you have any advice for me? You know, I'm just starting out, like, what do I do, right? And he said, hey, actually, let me call you in a DM and I'll kind of teach you the basics. And Lindley was kind enough to offer me 3 hours of his own time in a call, even though there were so many other people also sort of talking to him on the Discord. He offered me 3 hours of his time. And in that call, I learned so much valuable information and sort of what is the essence behind the Retake channel. To this day, he taught me the sort of concept of comps, that you should sort of pre-build these comps and that you should go for them. And he was the first ever Spirit Empress player to reach Diamond, the best Spirit Empress player ever. If you go by that metric, in my opinion, the GOAT of Spirit Empress, because he was the pioneer of Spirit Empress essentially. And he was the one who taught me how to play the Spirit Empress. So all the Spirit Empress gameplay you see on my channel, the roots of that go to this one man named Lindley, the father of Merge Tactics, in my opinion. And so I learned all this from him. And I thought, hey, I really love this game. And I realized, I looked up content on YouTube and I said, hey, there's not that much high-level content gameplay because this game mode just came out. And I thought back to my dream of content creation and I thought, look, maybe this is just one way I can just sort of start this back up. You know, I failed in the past. I really want to make this happen. I'm just going to go all in right now. And if I fail, no regrets. And so for the next day, I grinded and I applied and practiced all this information that Lindley gave me. And I started slowly learning the Empress and I was just clapping everybody in my way. And after about 2 days, I grinded all the way up to the top 500. And at that point, I thought, you know what? I think I'm at the skill level where it would be beneficial for a lot of people to watch me. And so I looked up a tutorial of how to start your first stream. And that's when I downloaded Streamlabs on PC. And I made my very first Twitch account. At the time, I had a Twitch account when I first streamed Bed Wars, but I deleted that a while ago. So I made my first Twitch account after a very long time again. And I thought, what should be my name? What should be my name? And Retake was actually my Fortnite name. That's where it comes from. Retake is the name I had in Fortnite because it comes from a combination of Retake as in the high ground and my surname, which is P-A-I-K. So I sort of made Retake and then I added the take. That's how it's spelled. That's why it's spelled weirdly. Just so you know, I don't think I've ever really explained that before. But that's where the name Retake came in. And I didn't really like the name, but I just thought, hey, let's just roll with the punches right now. And I remember I set up my stream overlay. It was just a very trash layout. It was just a screen recording or screen mirroring, and then it was my face cam. But I remember I was just sitting in my bedroom, and it was 12 a.m. at night because I was trying to stream in the American time zone. I was in Korea at the time, so I was trying to line up the time zones, and I was staring at the go live button. And I thought to myself, I said, hey, I don't have to do this, right? I was just so nervous. So many thoughts were going through my head. What if I just get clowned on like I did in the past? Or what if people think I'm ugly? Or what if people just are going to criticize me for being chopped? Because that was the first time I had my face cam on. I think that's the biggest struggle new streamers have with their face cam. And one of the guys I met at the time, his name was Hoagie. He said, look, dude, nobody cares about how you look. They're just your views are just a bunch of dudes just trying to get better at the game. That's all it is. And that advice really helped me to press live for the first time. So I pressed live for the first time. In my first ever stream, I had about 4 to 5 viewers. And obviously that's kind of low, but for a first stream, that is very impressive. And I said, hey, I streamed for about 6 hours straight. I really loved streaming. I had so much fun. I felt so natural. I just loved talking and interacting with people in chat. I loved playing the game as well. And so for the next day, I said, hey, let's just go again. So I streamed again the next day. And what do you know? I got 7 to 8 viewers. And then I said, hey, I really like this. Let's keep doing this. And I streamed the next day. I got 10 viewers. The next day, 12 viewers, 15 viewers, and so on and so forth. And the viewers gradually started to increase. And I just really loved streaming on TikTok or on Twitch. But my viewers started plateauing on Twitch. And I said, okay, how can I like increase my exposure, maybe grow? And that's when someone recommended TikTok to me. He said, hey, you should post short forms on TikTok. Short form content is very easy to come by. You know, you can post timeless content, right? The content you post on TikTok is going to exist forever. Whereas the streams, people can only watch when you're live, right? So this is sort of timeless content that can maybe get more exposure. And I said, hey, that's a great idea. So I make my very first TikTok account and I make my first TikTok. And I still have the same mindset. Like, oh, what if people from my family or my friends just sort of find me and judge me? So if you go on my TikTok, and you can do this if you want. I encourage you to do this. If you go on my TikTok, my first ever video was which ruler should you use, the king and the empress, because those were the only 2 rulers. And I was just speaking in such a monotonous way, and I was like, which ruler should you use, king or empress? And I remember how I did it because I was afraid that if I used too much passion, sort of like this, people would just find it and be like, what is this guy doing? Like, does he actually like doing this? I just thought people would judge me. And that first TikTok did not do very well. It got like 300 views, but I said, hey, 300 views is better than 0, so I'll upload the next TikTok. The next TikTok I did was top 3 comps. And that video actually went viral. Maybe a day later, it got like 300,000 views. And I said, wow, this is insane. Let me just keep uploading TikToks. This is actually going really well. But the day I uploaded that second TikTok, one of my close friends actually found the TikTok because TikTok has this dumb feature where it recommends, you know, like it shows all the other accounts of people you know, like your IRL contacts, a dumb feature in my opinion. And he forwarded it to my entire group chat of my close group of friends and he said, is this guy dead ass? Like, what is this guy doing? Because it was basically me making that TikTok. And I had 2 decisions. I could have, 1, walked away, made the same decision I made 5 years earlier than that, and I could have quit. Or number 2, I could have said, screw them. I'm just going to keep doing what I do. And I'm just going to ignore their feelings. And I'm so grateful that I chose this second one. I kept uploading TikToks and TikToks after that. A lot of them got hundreds of thousands of views. And I had very early success. And I think a lot of the reason of my early success, a lot of people say content creation has a lot of luck. I do think it has some luck. But I do think the strategy definitely outweighs the luck. And I think a lot of the reason why I sort of blew up from the beginning is just sort of because I recognized a sort of gap in content. I recognized, hey, there's not any merge tactics content, high-level merge tactics content. If I could be the pioneer, the first to publish this, then I'll surely get views, right? Because a lot of people are want to learn about merge tactics. There's a high demand for merge tactics content, but there's 0 supply. So I thought I could create the supply, and that's sort of where the strategy came in. I feel like I have a pretty decent sort of brain when it comes to content creation, and that's sort of where it started. And so my TikTok started doing well. But quite frankly, I just didn't enjoy making TikToks that much because a lot of it is just editing. Like, you're just doing a lot of editing, just sort of putting out the most concise amount of information possible. And I didn't like it because it wasn't very authentic. It just seemed like a very superficial, like, hey, here's the best comps, blah, blah, blah. And so I kept on streaming on TikTok and Twitch. I was getting like 500 views on TikTok, something insane. Even to this day, I don't even get 500 average views on YouTube, which is where I stream. I don't stream on TikTok anymore. But I was getting crazy numbers. But one day someone recommended, hey, why don't you start making YouTube videos on my Twitch stream? And I said, yeah, I don't think that's for me because I had the perception of YouTubers being these crazy professional people who make highly edited videos and have crazy looking thumbnails. And I said, I don't have the skills for that. But one day I just decided, look, I'm just going to take a risk because you're not going to get anywhere without risks. The most successful people today are people who took risks because you need to take risks to get rewards, right? And so I just said, screw it, I'll just make my first ever YouTube video. And that video is titled How a Top Merge Tactics Player Thinks, something like that. And when I uploaded the video, my thumbnail was terrible. It was just a picture of my face and like a diamond logo. But 2 of my viewers reached out and said, hey, let me make a thumbnail for you. and they made an actually decent looking thumbnail, good looking thumbnail, and I changed the thumbnail, and I'm so blessed that that video is actually my 4th viewed video to this day. In 2 weeks, it got 80,000 views. And from that point on, I said, hey, this is actually really successful. I'm going to keep making YouTube videos. And what I realized is that I just liked making YouTube videos a lot more because, like how I'm doing right now, YouTube videos seem way more authentic to me. It's not overly as edited. I can just talk about various things, and it just seems like a more sort of ordinary perception of myself. And I really love that because growing up in high school, I used to watch, that's what I like the most. Content creators that were super authentic. My favorite YouTuber is this guy named RecRap. He's a Minecraft YouTuber, and he just makes the most authentic, sort of passionate commentary videos, and that's sort of the YouTuber I aspire to be. That's where I take a lot of inspiration from, and I just realized, hey, I like making that sort of content too. And so I slowly started pivoting to making YouTube videos over TikTok and Twitch. That's why my Twitch and TikTok are pretty much kind of dead compared to my YouTube, because I just like making YouTube videos way more. And at that point, I just started making YouTube videos on and off in the first season 0 of Merge Tactics, because there was no new content. There's not much content to make videos on. There's no Merge Tactics content really. There's no updates, so I just started making videos on and off. But after I went to college, starting in about August, I started ramping it up because I said, hey, I want to actually put more effort into this. And I started making more daily content. I didn't really know much about YouTube at the time, what were like good video ideas and what were not. So a lot of the videos I put out, just in my opinion, were not in high demand. Like, I didn't really think, at the time I thought it would be a good idea, but my idea of a good idea was entertainment, not necessarily what people wanted to watch. So those videos didn't do good. I was maybe getting like 3,000 views on some, 8,000 on others. Is very inconsistent. But then the first ever updated Merge Tactics was announced, and at that time, I just decided, okay, I need to lock in, right? And I kept streaming every day and every day. I didn't know much about YouTube. I was learning a bit every day. But one stream, I don't know what it was. It was that day I just said, I didn't stream that often back then either, like I do now. But one day I randomly decided, let me just go live. I kind of just feel like going live, whatever. I'll just do it. I'll just go live today. And that was the stream I hit 5,000 subscribers. And as I was streaming that stream, another super creator named Coco, she streams Clash of Clans, she actually rated me. And one of the viewers, his name was Taz, and Taz is a very important character I want you all to remember. Taz was in that stream, and he started chatting to me, and we started exchanging words over the stream for a good like 30 plus minutes. And Taz is a YouTube consultant strategist, a very brilliant guy when it comes to YouTube for sure. And I actually exchanged contact information, and from that point on, I started asking him a lot of questions about YouTube, and that's the point where I actually started learning a lot more and started becoming more devoted to YouTube. And after that stream, I applied to be an official creator. Official creator is like the first tier of creator in the Supercell creator program. And at official creator, you need to have 5,000 subscribers on YouTube to unlock it. And that's sort of like the entryway for the Supercell creator program. And after I became an official creator, I learned more about official creator. And that's just what kind of taught me how hard it was to become a super creator, because the super creator is the highest tier in the Supercell creator program. And think about all the big names you know, like OJ, Molt, Juicy, all these huge creators. Those guys are all super creators. That's what it means to be a super creator. A trustworthy, very professional, high quality YouTuber or content creator. And those guys just seem so out of my league. These were the guys I looked up to. Right, for my entire life, I was playing Clash Royale, and I just thought, I will never get into their league. Super creator is just not something I can possibly achieve. I'm just this, 19-year-old, like, newbie college student, content creator. I don't know what I'm doing. I will never achieve that. And super creator was just something I never thought I could do. So it was just sort of at the back of my mind. It was the goal, and I thought, if I could ever hit that one day, I know I've made it. And so after that point on, I just started devoting more effort to content because I started enjoying it more. Right? Again, as I mentioned, I love the authenticity of long form content on YouTube. I just love just booting up the game, being able to teach other people how to play while talking about various other things. And my favorite comments were the ones that said, hey, Retake, thank you. I just made it to Diamond because of your tips. Or Retake, I really related to that topic you talked about in this video. Those are the comments I love the most. And that's when I really started falling in love with content. I said, hey, I really love doing this because it feels like I'm making an impact on people's lives. And that's sort of when I started finding purpose in my life. As I mentioned before that point, I just didn't feel like I had any purpose, right? everything I really wanted in life. I tried to go for the academics, the grades, the social life, making good friends at college. Nothing went my way. And it just felt like my life before that was at just such a low point. And I just felt like I had no purpose. I was just trying to live my life for someone else, my parents, just trying to get good grades, even though I didn't care about that, right? I mean, getting grades is important, don't get me wrong, objectively speaking, but I didn't have any passion about that, right? And I mean, to be fair, nobody really has passion about that. But I felt like I lived my life for somebody else. But for the first time ever, through making content, it was mine. I was able to just wake up every day with a smile on my face, just making such content I was just so proud of, content that I genuinely believed, and that even if that content made people's days 2% better, that was just more than enough for me. And that's when I started falling in love with content. And I was asking Taz all these other questions because I genuinely wanted to grow as well. I said, hey, do you think this is a good idea? Like, how would you sort of package this video? And Taz was just such a great guy who's just giving me so much information, and I learned so much from him. And that's about the time that the brand new merch tactics update came out. Before then, I was about 8,000 subscribers. My sub count was kind of going up very steadily. But when the first update hit, that's when huge hype came back into the game. My first 2 weeks of videos probably averaged like 50,000 views, 40,000 views. It was insane. And in that first month, that's when things really took off for me. I went from being this very like tiny, I still am a small creator, 40,000 subs is still small. But at that time, like 8,000 subs is very small, I would say. And that's when I sort of took off from a 4-digit creator to a 5-digit creator, because in that one season, I went from like 9,000 subscribers to 20,000 subscribers, because that's how much hype it had. I doubled my sub count in one season. And after that, I just realized, hey, this could actually work. And I really started devoting more effort into content, and I really just love playing merge tactics as well. I would spend countless hours every day just grinding the game out of passion, but also making videos. But at the same time, that had its costs, because as I was spending all these hours into content and grinding merch tactics, my grades fell. And I remember these 2 nights very vividly. The first was for discrete math. I had a midterm the next day. It was 3 a.m. My midterm was tomorrow at 9. And I just said, I can't do this. The last midterm I bombed, and I just can't. If I screw up one more, it's over. The midterm was not looking good. So I decided to drop my first ever class. Before that, I was a 4.0 student, so that was significant for me. A few days later, for a computer science class, I had a project to do the next morning. And I said, I just cannot do this. So I dropped those 2 classes, and I ended the semester with 1 C, my first ever non-A. And that point was just a dark point for me academically. But to this day, I don't regret that at all, because I was able to just pursue my passion. And it was a small setback, but I was able to just pursue my other passions and just set up myself more long-term, medium-term, more long-term with this content, because that was just a time that I genuinely loved life. I was just waking up every day, just so happy, just genuinely pursuing what I was passionate about. I don't regret that a single thing, or a single bit at all. And then after that season was the Goblin Queen season. No major new content, but at that time, the first few videos got like 50,000 subs. And then I sort of plateaued a bit to like that month, maybe I got like 4,000 subs, so the sub count decreased. But the month after that, a huge update came out with the battle machine, new cards, new traits. And then that month, my views consistently, the first sort of week, maybe I got like 80,000, 70,000 consistent views. And then mid-season, the end season sort of tapered down to like 20, 30,000. And so that's when I realized, okay, this is going to be the cycle. When a new big update comes out, I'm going to get a lot of hype. Maybe that month I'll get a lot of subs. Then the next month, it'll sort of stable out a bit. And that's how it happened. That season, I hit 30,000 subscribers. And then the next season after that came the Elixir Loon. Okay, let's not remember the Elixir Loon. That season was not very fun. The Elixir Loon came out, and there's not much new content, but that's the season when I sort of found my stable sort of formula more like. I said, okay, these are the types of videos that works for me. Rankings, ruler rankings, comp videos, update videos, so on. And that's when I sort of became a lot more consistent and professional as a content creator. And at that season, I hit maybe 35,000. And then the month after that is when the Echo Stage came out. And the Echo Stage came out, that's this season. That came out earlier this month. And in the Echo Stage season, I hit 40,000 subscribers. And that was just a huge moment. Every 10K increment is just huge for me. And I realized, okay, I'm just gradually going up in 10K, 10K, 10K. And just 2 days ago, it was a pretty typical feeling day, January 23rd. I woke up at 2 p.m. and I checked my phone and I got a Discord notification at 6 a.m. and I was like, okay, this is probably just some typical Discord notification, but I checked it. And it was from a creator manager, Enzo, from the Supercell team. And he DM'd me, he said, retake, just to keep it short and sweet, we have decided to promote you to super creator. And at that moment, I got 5 hours of sleep the night before, but my eyes just shot open. Adrenaline just rushed through my body, and you could just picture me running through my entire studio apartment, my tiny studio apartment, just screaming, oh my god, I did it, I did it. And that moment was just one of the most special moments in my life because for the first time ever, it just felt like things have gone my way. There's so many things in my life have just not gone my way that for the first time I was like, wow, like life is good, you know, like things can go my way, right? And number two, it just felt like for the first time ever, my hard work paid off. So many times in the past, especially with high school, that moment still low-key scarred me. I just spent countless hours studying, pursuing this research internships in high school, just sort of beefing up my resume for college. I spent all this time devoting my life to getting to a good college, and I still get into a good college. I like the college I go to, but it just didn't get me into the top of the colleges, which was my ultimate goal in life. And at that time, I just felt like, yeah, hard work just doesn't pay off. Like, you know, life is just not fair. But for the first time ever, it just feels like my hard work has paid off. And at that time, when I didn't get into the school I wanted to go into, that was huge for me as an Asian. A lot of you guys are probably not understanding me. You're like, dude, it's just a college. That was my entire life because college prestige determines social status as well. And it was just not a good time for me because if you get into a worse college, people look down on you more. It's really unfortunate, but that's just how it is in Korean society. That's how huge it is. And for the longest time, people just said things happen for a reason, or, you know, you'll be just fine in the end of the day. And I thought that's just a load of BS. Like, that's just what people say to cope. But now that I've gone through it, I've experienced, you know, the lows, but now I'm experiencing the highs, and I realize I'm glad that things happen exactly the way they did, because this is the only reality, I believe, in which I would get to experience a life that I would have chosen for myself and that I really find purpose in. Not a life that I would be living for somebody else, but a life that I would genuinely be living for myself. So thank you all for really supporting me and helping me to hit Super Creator. This genuinely would not have happened without any of you guys. I'm genuinely just so grateful for the support. I'm just still speechless, to be honest, because as I said, I did not think Super Creator would be achievable for me, but I'm just genuinely so appreciative to you guys. And for the first time, guys, I can say use code RT in the item shop. If you guys did enjoy the video, make sure to subscribe. And until then, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.